Duckies and Dice Fiends, welcome on in. We are here with two very special guests. Normally, we do a quick dive into what we're up to, but something really cool just happened if you're hanging out. So, Fleur, Chelsea, what just happened?
Literally, like 3 minutes ago, we hit our funding goal for our campaign of Mystified, which is a sequel to our first TTRPG, Flabbergasted, and I'm still staring at the Kickstarter, the Backerkit page.
Yeah, literally, as we were about to go live on the stream, we funded.
Yes.
This is amazing.
We were like, let's wait just another minute so that they can take the screenshots and do the celebratory tweets because don't interrupt that part. So yes, what an amazing way to start this off. Hey everyone, welcome to the Table Talk Show. I am Kay, one of your hosts. You can find me mostly here. Not a lot that's going on with me right now, or not a lot of things that I can talk about yet. There's a couple things coming up, but as always, find us here for the Tuesday Table Talk Show, and then Thursday and Friday, Dave and I are playing our first playthrough streamed co-op of Baldur's Gate 3, and that's fine. We're in Act 2. It's fine. We've only had, I think, 5 TPKs. It's great. So we will be hitting that again. Thank you to everyone who came and found me at PAX East and hung out at the panels and took goodie bags. It was a wonderful time. It was great meeting you. They have so many goodies. David, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I will be playing Helldivers tomorrow with Logar the Ogar. I may or may not fire up a stream here as well, depending on how much energy I have and whether or not Kay will allow me to finally do a hot tub stream. But, hi, I'm David. This is the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And our two guests have already made one tabletop that we have played here on this channel. If you all remember, it was June? It was June when Candace ran Flabbergasted. And I played Daisy, who definitely didn't have a fake accent. She was definitely not putting anything on. So a wonderful game that we made I'm still in love with that Art Deco overlay that we did that we used again for Body and Soul. Great setting, fit so beautifully. Speaking of, Candace the Magnificent is here in chat, who is our GM for our playthrough of Flabbergasted. But we're gonna talk about Flabbergasted, and we have to talk about Mystified, which just funded. Congratulations, you two. So on the back of that, congrats. Tell us, who are you all? And other than obviously making these two awesome TTRPGs, what do you do?
Okay, so we're Fleur and my sister Chelsea, and we are two game developers and creators from a really tiny island in the Mediterranean called Malta. And besides having a deep love for tabletop role-playing games, I am myself I have a background in graphic design and illustration, and I think it's evident in the works of Flabbergasted. I love doing design and things like historical ephemera and ads. I love that kind of work, and very big geek who is also really into Baldur's Gate and Helldivers right now. So part of me was I'm happy to chat about those two things.
Yeah, we're both playing it nonstop right now. Those are our two games.
Amazing.
Chel?
And I'm Chelsea. I'm the other half of Wanderer's Tome. So I do writing and marketing and any other hats we have to wear for Wanderer's Tome. My background is very random because I used to be an architect, but an artistic field, I guess, and I left that behind to make tabletop role-playing games, much to my parents' disapproval at the time. But now it's all good. So now they're like, okay, you're doing okay.
I am very sad to say, Improv and RPG, we do not have that stream recorded anymore. We had, unfortunately, just a ton of technical issues, which is actually when David started taking over production because of my computer. I figured out why eventually.
I remember that.
Yeah. And we had half of it recorded it and half of it not. And by the time we realized the other half had not recorded and the file had corrupted, it had been purged from Twitch. And I am so sad because it was such a good game. There were so many tech gremlins and all of our guests were so amazing to stick through it. And we raised a lot of money for charity, which, you know, that's really the important thing, but it's still like, I really would have liked to have had that, especially because we had some hilarious donation incentives. So Candace wrote up these incredible donations. So one of them was just jazz hands. You could just make a character do jazz hands for 5 minutes. And then there would be impressions. So it got to the point where my character had to like stand up to these other characters and deliver this whole thing. And right before I launched into like scolding of the NPCs, there was a donation that made me deliver it like a witch. So I'm doing this whole delivery. It was off the wall. It was off the hook. It was hilarious.
What archetype did you play? What archetype did you play for that stream?
Oh, good gravy. I was I think, is it aristocrat? Is it?
Yeah.
But she was definitely pretending to not be. She was very much playing against socialite. I was a socialite. Thank you, Candace. Yeah, we had some really great times with it.
Oh, that's good. It sounds like it was pretty funny.
It was a blast, and I'm going to, since I forgot to hit the redeem when we mentioned it, but we
Yay!
funded success. Da, 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 da,
Oh yes.
So tell us, how did Flabbergasted and then Mystified come to be? Like, what was that process? What made you go, yeah, let's build this thing?
Well, it started out actually with me and my sister deciding to publish some murder mysteries, mostly because we love murder mysteries, because we're quite into or at least we were into LARPing, and we liked murder mysteries, and we used to write them for our friends anyways. So we decided, since they're written, why not just package them in and publish them? And I mean, they weren't like any big money makers, or just things that we had already done, and we just put them up as PDFs. But you know, that got us in this discussion between us two. We're like, why have we never actually tried to make games between us two? Because I've in the past, like I've made games with other friends, and sometimes it falls apart with friends. Like not everyone is as committed, or you know, stuff gets in the way. But with my sister, like I know we're stuck for life, and I know we work very well together. So we had this idea to start making our own games, especially tabletop role-playing games, because we've been like fans for the last like decade of tabletop role-playing. And I mean, the idea of Flabbergasted, it came to us during lockdown, as most happened for a lot of people. I was trying to read like new material and just watching old movies, and I came across the works of P.G. Wodehouse, who wrote the Jeeves and Wooster series, and just found it like really inspiring, that whole dynamic of like bumbling aristocrat with that very competent butler or valet.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that there was something there to turn into a role-playing game. Chell, do you have anything you want to add to that? Or
Yeah, and then after we had this idea, obviously we still were in our old careers, and we weren't sure what we were gonna do with it. But we decided to launch on Kickstarter. Because that's the beauty of Kickstarter, is that you don't have to finish the entire game. We just had an idea, we developed it, and then we decided to try our hand at Kickstarter. And we had very low expectations, but it did pretty well. I mean, so much so that we then quit our jobs after we funded.
Like, yeah, literally. As soon as you funded, you're like, okay, that's it, handing in resignations. we were ready to take this full time.
Yeah, once after
So-
we had the idea, it wasn't during playtesting that we realized this works. Even the first playtest had, like, in fact, in our first playtest, the 4 archetypes were the 4 archetypes that ended up being in the final game.
Wow.
Surprisingly, those didn't change. Those didn't change, but other abilities and things like that obviously changed a lot. And the other thing is that we couldn't find another game that was similar. We couldn't find a 1920s kind of madcap comedy style game. So
that wasn't just, Call of Cthulhu.
yeah, 1920s usually tends to go more like that, or gangs or mobs or things like that, or more historical 1920s, which is not what we wanted to do. We wanted to focus on comedy and improv and the bits of role playing that me and Fleur love, which is basically everything in between combat. Like the silly moments where, I mean, we love Dungeons and Dragons, but we love the moments where we're infiltrating a ball or spending an hour shopping or something like that.
And basically, like, our philosophy behind the games is like, how do we condense those moments that we really like in role-playing games and just make that the entire game?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, we went on Kickstarter. It did well. And after we published and fulfilled our game, we started to get some requests from players, or we noticed people trying to homebrew Flabbergasted to do a murder mystery or something more occult based. Those 2 were the biggest requests.
I know we had someone who homebrewed Flabbergasted to be an SCP roleplay. SCP is the one like it's like internet horror
Secure,
or something.
Contain, Protect.
Yes, that's the one.
It's of the Slender Man, like, contrived urban horror.
It's like a fake organization that collects strange anomaly and creatures, and somehow they used Flabbergasted to do this idea that they had. So we knew
that's cool.
That's very cool. I also come from an art background. For, I think most of chat knows, but for those of you who don't, I began my career as the community manager and lead moderator for DeviantArt for 17 years.
DeviantArt is my childhood.
I know. I'm so nostalgic right now.
The thing I always say after I give that fact is, "You're welcome. I'm sorry I tried."
I left before DeviantArt got bad. Basically,
I mean,
I missed it.
There was always a corner of so I've always been around a lot of artists. I was a working artist briefly before I realized I can either be good enough, fast enough, or basically good enough or fast enough, right? I could do one of the two to make it as a working artist, and I can just support artists and highlight art, and I like that side of it more. So that's kind of but the number of artists I've worked with where I'm like, once you create the thing and put it out there, yes, it's yours, but it is everyone's now. It is going to change and take on shapes and lives and implications that you were not ready for. So don't try to fight it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see how many adaptations they've already made out of Flabbergasted. I can't imagine the SBC or SCP. I'm dyslexic.
SCP.
I can't say either. SCP.
But yeah, that's got to be a trip.
No,
it's still always a trip when anyone plays our game, period. When people are enjoying it, it's wild. I mean, even today with Mystified, if you could see us right before the campaign, we were like, no one's gonna buy our game. Who would want to play our game? We were just completely down, and then as soon as we launched, oh, okay, people do want to play our game. People like it.
In less than 5 hours.
Yes.
I know.
Oh, Candace says me. I want it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Candace.
Candice was really nice. She really supported Flabbergasted a lot and pushed us to submit for the Ennies with Flabbergasted, and then we actually got nominated for
the biggest
ones in the Ennies, which was crazy. In fact, when we got that email, we called each other. We were practically crying. Like we were like, I believe this is.
Oh yeah, when we were both out in the same city in Malta. So then I just called Fleur. I'm like, where are you? I'm gonna find you now. I went to her. She was eating out in a restaurant. She came out, and then we just like screamed and cried, and I left, and that's it. It was great.
Yeah.
Great
Candice
5
is
minutes.
the best of people. So yes, tell us about Mystified. Tell us what is similar to Flabbergasted. What is new and different? What do we get?
So Mystified is our first expansion to Flabbergasted. And so like I touched on earlier, we kind of took what people were requesting, and I noticed that a lot of them have mysteries in common. So like occult type of magic mystery stories, and then you have the classic whodunits, like Agatha Christie type of stories, and then we also added more explorer Indiana Jones-esque type stories, and we put those together into Mystified. And so in the expansion we have 3 new archetypes to represent these 3 new mysteries. You have the sleuth, the explorer, and the occultist. And we also have 3 new locations, again representing different kinds of mysteries. And the new mechanic in the whole book is that we added a mystery sheet to the game. So you can add mysteries using this mystery sheet to your existing Flabbergasted campaigns already. So it's really just an addition to your games. Or you can do a standalone mystery, like a whole campaign that's a mystery. It's up to you. But we've done one-shots as mysteries, and they work well as a one-shot, so you can easily slot it into your existing campaigns. And the mystery sheet helps the director, who is the GM, to have a structure to their mysteries. So you write down obviously what the title and the premise of your mysteries, and you also have to list. Maybe I'm going into too much detail. I don't know.
Is great.
No, that's what you're
But
here
you have
what we want.
And you write down leads and clues that you'll get from those leads. And to get the clue, your players have to go through a challenge. So it's just giving you a structure for your players throughout your mysteries. And then what's new, another thing that's new in your mystery sheet is that there's a mechanic for the ending. So whatever ending your players are going to come up with is going to be the ending, but depending on how many clues they've obtained, they will then roll some dice at the end of the session or at the end of the mystery, which the director keeps track with a tracker, and that's going to determine how successful the ending is. So they might come up with an ending that, I don't know, Agatha killed her aunt, if it's a murder mystery, and Agatha will have killed her aunt, but if they roll badly, maybe Agatha doesn't go to prison because she knows somebody and she knows the sheriff or something, or
maybe she had an accomplice that they missed out on, and
it's just not going to be as completely satisfactory, like tied in a bow kind of ending. Or maybe they roll well and they have a perfect ending. But yeah, Mystified keeps collaboration and improv at the heart of our games, which is why the ending is created by the players and the director together.
I love that.
That's Mystified.
Dave
And
I
also-
have definitely in games like had mysteries or been like, okay, so here's one way they could solve it. And like, but at one point in one of our games, we had a horror game where like we knew what we wanted to set the player up with. Like, this is the choice you have to make, right? Here's the situation. And literally my GM notes in all caps were like, IDK what he's gonna do, but let's find out.
Yep.
Right? Like those bring me joy when it's just like, I don't actually know the answer. Players
tell us what the answer.
Yeah. And also like I think it's just going to be more satisfying for players if they really felt like they came up, they have solved it, because sometimes I have played through mysteries where you get all the clues and you can't put it together, and then it just feels contrived or not satisfying, and it doesn't go exactly how the GM has planned. I like this flexibility, and it does play into like the philosophy we had with Flabbergasted, which it's not a game that's about like winning or losing. It's about just telling the story and keep it moving forward, even with a lot of missteps along the way. And I think that what we have for Mystified kind of upholds that ideal that we had.
Yeah, and also, sorry. No, also as the director or GM, coming up with a mystery with one ending is very complex and takes up a lot of effort on your end. And again, not what Flabbergasted is about. We don't want to make this super hard for anyone. We want it to be fun and rules light.
I mean, we've written murder mysteries for like we said for LARP, and it is difficult to come up with a
one ending and make
yeah.
sure they can actually come to that ending and figure it out.
There's so many, like, you have to put down so many breadcrumbs because you never actually know what the players are going to pick up, what they're going to get from it, and then like if you make the mistake of putting in a red herring, David.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Then players might just, decide I'm bored. Let's try and convince the party to go chase the red herring. Who would do something like that? I don't know.
And I'm reminded of like The Good Place, where small spoiler if you haven't seen Good Place, but they figure out the thing at the twist at the end of season 1. And then Michael goes, "Oh man, you did a good job finding the like 36 clues out of the 9,209 clues that I left for you to find." And it's like, it building out a game where all the roads lead in a direction. You really have to do that, where you put like lots of stuff, that players can interact with, so they can go, "Aha! I figured it out." And it's like, yes, I'm glad you got the clue after you passed up the past 20 clues that I left you.
Right. That, or you get a Zakoyama who just throws out the answer. Like, you get a Zakoyama or you get an Ali Beardsley, where Zach will just be like, "Do you think that has to do with this seemingly completely unrelated thing?" And the GM's like, "Well, I don't make people roll when they straight up guess it." Or you get the Ali Beardsley who's like, "I'm gonna roll, like I'm gonna do like this insight check here. I'm gonna roll wisdom to try to figure out what's happening here. Nat 20. GM's like, "Well," like, because I agree. There's absolutely like, yes, we have a guild. There's absolutely that. There's like two things where it's either like, I've got a couple clues and I can't figure out how to put them together, and it's not very satisfying because I, as a player, am like, I don't know how. Or you often get the Sherlock Holmes approach, where like, look, I love Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is the original literary ace. Fight me. I love Sherlock Holmes. But like,
Sherlock Holmes really wasn't into. Yeah, that's fair.
No, Sherlock Holmes was 100% ace. I still ship him and Watson in BBC Sherlock, but I don't care.
BBC Sherlock is really, that is an abusive relationship. It is toxic as hell.
But like the books would be like, they'd give you a bunch of clues, but they wouldn't give you enough until the end when Sherlock is like, "Aha, well, and they'd like reference these things that you had mention of, but like, and it's like, you as the reader couldn't solve the mystery. Right? And it was written that way deliberately so that Sherlock would be brilliant. But then it's also like, but I
know.
You want,
and we found that so far in the games that we've played, that does kind of happen. It's the director just feeds so many different clues. They have no idea necessarily what the players are going to come up with, and the players just grab onto anything that they can and come up with their own story, and it's really fun to see them do that.
And Candace says they are so excited to try this. Their Pride shot was less a mystery and more of a scavenger hunt, but they had so much fun, but such a difficult time finding that flow. Having steps will be so handy. Yeah, we did a tour of locations on a scavenger hunt, so
nice.
It was very fun. And then did I yell at them in the observatory? Doesn't matter. It was a time. Candace put in the work. So Fleur, do you do all the art for Flabbergasted, or do you also work with the team?
No, we commission artists to help out with it. I do the layout and graphic design for it, for the book layout, and I have done some of the illustrations. Like I drew all of the pet portraits in the book.
Very important.
Very important, yes,
Very
yes,
important.
and the fashion guides, which I love doing so much because I love 1920s fashion. But otherwise, we work with a number of illustrators. A lot of them are good friends because through my years of working as an illustrator and going to conventions, I've met a lot of friends, and so we have. We can shout them out because their work is incredible. We had Ricardo Bessa doing the cover art for Flabbergasted, Andy Bennett who did the interior art, like the full page spreads, and we had Dozer Draws as well. They did some of the interior stuff, and they did their cover now as well. And Daniela Attard, who did some of the extra stuff, like the map and
the book plate.
Book plate,
Things
like that.
And now with and Mystified, we're working with Dozer Draws for the cover and interior illustrations. Yeah.
Candace says they would like to say the pets are the best part. Those are the sweetest babies. There's a super fluffy cat that I'm obsessed with.
Oh, is it the black and white one? Because that's one I'm obsessed with.
That was one of our backers' cats, right?
Yes, because most of the pet portraits are backers' pets, because we had the option that you can get yourself in the game, and then once that's sold out really quickly. And then once that happened, I'm like, we have to come up with something else, but we couldn't commission more art. So I'm like, I could draw some pets. And so we added 10 more pets, and they also got snapped off.
And we're doing the same thing for Mystified as well. We're gonna have hopefully some custom pets. If not, they're gonna be pets anyway. So don't worry. There's already my dog on the cover. We're already putting our pets in there.
And yes, congrats again on funding.
No one got the pet portraits yet. We do have some new characters. Got time.
Congrats again on funding.
Yes.
We have a lot of folks who hang out. So we have a lot of folks who do either actual plays or working on systems or any and all of the above. And one thing I'd love to talk about with people who have been, especially those who've been on both sides of it, is working with artists. Because a lot of people who are creating these books want to be very, very involved in the creation of art process. And I feel like often you get what you want most when you find an artist whose style kind of already matches what you go for, and you give them space.
Yeah.
That's something that maybe it takes being an artist or having worked with artists and the arts, that you realize if you commission someone, it's because you trust them. I take this for example, I've been getting into tattoos right now, and my tattoo artist is always like, want any changes, or do you want it? I'm like, listen, I'm paying you because I trust you, because you have the expertise here, right? And I feel that same way with illustration. Like, anyone who's going to commission an illustrator, don't micromanage them, don't ask for too much. Trust that you got them for a reason.
Yeah. Obviously, since we've worked with a few artists, like for Flabbergasted, we had more than one artist. We obviously picked artists where their art style works well together.
Exactly.
But we knew this before we obviously commissioned them, and then we just, gave them a brief and let them do their thing.
And don't use AI art.
Well, never.
Please don't use AI.
Never.
AI was supposed to make it so that we could do art, not do the art poorly.
Yes.
Now everyone's an artist.
And yet no one is. And now they're trying to copyright their prompts, and I'm like,
oh my, I know. I find it ridiculous how, we can get into an AI topic and we can go on for hours, but
look, I will dumpster AI from now until sundown, no problem.
Yeah.
Or for you, sunrise.
It's true. But yeah, I don't understand those people who think that just putting in prompts suddenly makes them an artist. Because actually just recently, yesterday, I was playing around with an AI music generator, AI generating this fun was just for the memes. You just want to make silly pictures to share between friends, you know? And that's what I did with this music. But there's no way I'm going to call myself a musician or a composer because I typed in some keywords. That's to me is ridiculous.
It's good for, idea generation as well, but I mean, that's pretty much, that's where it ends. It should end.
Yes. Matt wants to know, did you find it difficult meshing two artist styles together?
No, because so originally we had one artist, Andy, and then he couldn't finish off the work, so we had to get a second one. And we did give guidelines on like keep the coloring style and the line art style the same. I think it flows beautifully in the book, and actually most people who maybe aren't trained in art, they won't even be able to tell which ones is whose. They think it's all the same artist, including the cover art. So I think it works. It fits in very well. We didn't have a problem with that.
And it's a good time to bring this up. Flabbergasted, nominated for Best Art for the Ennies, Best Game, Product of the Year, Dicebreaker, Best Art, Rising Star Designers, Rising Star Publishers, Best Graphic Design, IGDN, and the awards winner for Best Game. So when they talk to you about art, when they talk to you about artists, when they talk to you about game design and graphic design, maybe they know what the hell they're talking about.
And
if you say so. It's still difficult to get over that feeling of like imposter syndrome sometimes.
I understand that
yeah.
far too well. But yeah, Matt, I've had great work with I'm super lucky that, again, I come from art, so I know a lot of artists, and I can look and be like, oh, this person's style and this person's style look very similar. And especially like Dave and I are working on a project where I've got a key art illustration done. And I also want to commission one of my other friends to do some of the art for this project. And like, be upfront with your artist when you chat to them, because I'm going to send this person the key art and be like, hey, this is what the character design looks like. I need some fantasy background stuff because they're an artist with a architecture background. So they're very good at those. And I want to be like, it doesn't have to match, right? But can you do a complementary style? Can you do something that looks like this? And the artist themselves will tell you, I can do that well, or no, I can't. Because just because it looks similar, like technically it can be very different. So don't be afraid to ask your artist, can you do this? Do you want to? Especially, y'all, and I hate that I have to say this, but especially, hey, Facean, especially if you are trying to commission characters of color.
Oh, yeah.
Because not everyone can draw ethnic features or ethnic hair correctly. And here's the problem. Some of the younger and less experienced artists don't realize that they can't.
Also, if any of you put Killmonger hair in anything from now until the end of time, I will come and find you. It's done. It's over. It's like saying things were neat back in the 1970s. It's done. Much like disco, the Killmonger hair is dead. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, it's true. Like diversity has been like something that's very important that we try to depict in our art of our book, like everything from the cover to the interior. Especially with
so especially because of the theme, it being 1920s, we definitely did not want this to look historically accurate. We don't want people to play social clubs where you're all middle-aged white men drinking whiskey. We wanted to show as well with our art, apart from the fact that we explained it, but with our art we wanted to show that you can play whatever you want, any orientation, any anything that you want, basically. Be as inclusive as possible, but you need to show that with your art, not just say it.
That's show don't tell is so important. And it's like, I tried really hard to get into the show Mad Men, but I'm like, I can't. Like, there's
Did you
there's
drink
nothing
while you watched it?
here for me.
Look, I not to derail us too hard, but I started watching Mad Men and it was uncomfortable or something weird about it, and I was like, I can't get it. And then I started drinking while I was watching the show, and I was like, I'm in here now. And low key almost made me an alcoholic over like the summer that I watched like 4 or 5 seasons of it. I was like, okay, I'm not watching this show anymore because my liver cannot take this. But question, and this is something that I think a lot about, both as like a storyteller and now as a game designer working with Kay, is okay. So like you do Flabbergasted. Where does the machinations for Mystified begin? Like, is this something that you were thinking about while you were working about Flabbergasted? Did you finish Flabbergasted, put it away, and go, okay, now there's like stuff I want to add? Like where does that get born, and how does that fit into the whole timeline of like the design of it?
We had ideas for like spin-offs and expansions for Flabbergasted pretty much before we even like started writing Flabbergasted.
Of who we are.
Yeah.
Scope creep is a real thing.
That's something we had. Like we have like so many game ideas, but like so little time to actually implement. That's the ideas are never the problem.
Yeah, our problem is picking an idea and actually doing it.
But no, I would say that our ideas of how to expand it started out pretty much in tandem with developing Flabbergasted. But what pushed us to actually go ahead and actually publish it was actually getting nominated for a lot of awards for Flabbergasted, because we're like, now's the time to like capitalize on that.
Yeah. I mean, people are playing it now, you know.
Yeah. Because we had ideas like, oh, maybe we should release some games in between, but we had some delays in our development as well. So we're like, okay, no, let's just do Flabbergasted. It's still being talked about right now.
Right.
And we also wanted to wait a while after we launched Flabbergasted, because even though we knew the Kickstarter had done well, we wanted to wait till people are actually playing it and enjoying it. To see, because obviously we expect with an expansion certain returning customers, so we wanted to make sure that they like the game. And when we got nominated for certain awards, that's when it really pushed us to do this seriously.
But with Mystified, like we actually had this idea to combine a bunch of ideas that we had together, because we had bits of pieces of expansions we wanted to do. So like adding magic was one element. I was really into like that whole Pulp Fiction adventure-y style, like Indiana Jones style. I also really like a bit of that Cthulhu setting, even though we're not a Cthulhu game, because as soon as they hear 1920s, people ask, is it Cthulhu? Or but I still wanted a bit of elements of it, and we had a way to tie in like all of these ideas we had. I don't want to get anyone's hope up, but I still like one of our first ideas for an expansion was to do an Around the World in 80 Days expansion, but we're trying to figure out how to make it work. But it is something that I think would work really well for Flabbergasted.
That was one of our original inspirations for Flabbergasted.
I could see it. Just get my hopes up.
Yes. And actually, I don't know if Matt is still in the chat, but I know he was running an Around the World in 80 Days campaign of Flabbergasted.
Oh yeah, Matt played a lot of the ideas in Mystified before they were in Mystified. Like he had a murder mystery one on a train as well. He had a campaign like that.
Amazing.
We do love a murder on a train.
So thank you, Matt, for giving us lots of ideas.
Tell us about the 3 new archetypes. Like, tell us about like occultist. What we gonna get up to as an occultist? What's in that playbook?
So the occultist, the occultist is the most unique CQ because it has its own. Sorry, not CQ. It's the most unique archetype that we've made in Mystified. Because apart from the usual, which is that they all have 15 unique CQs, which are the narrative abilities for our game. So they're they're abilities that influence a specific scene, and they're really the heart of Flabbergasted. But apart from that, the occultist is the only archetype that has something called, so far we're calling it rolling for influence, but it might change. But there are specific scene cues that when you use them as an occultist, you have to roll for influence, which is that basically by doing certain magical scene cues, you're kind of opening yourself up to the other world, external forces. And you roll for something, and then you might, if you roll a 2, it might say, oh, your arm is possessed, or someone is talking through your voice and your voice isn't yours anymore. I know there are a bunch of different effects like that. So that's what's unique about magic and the occultist. But otherwise, there's a mixture of scene cues. So there are a few, like, for example, with the occultist, a few specific scene cues that are more magical, but there are also ones that are more narrative that fit with everyone else. So if you play an occultist in a regular Flabbergasted scenario, most of the scene cues are still going to be very easily applicable because they're more narrative and not just, I don't know, doing some hocus pocus. I wish I could remember any scene cue right now, but I can't.
I did put
like
you on the spot.
They've all gone
it
up.
happens. I know that so well. No, I'm not gonna lie. Now I want to play an occultist in a regular Flabbergasted game who is like just like a tarot card reader or like a fortune teller, like pretending to be a sham, but actually does occasionally get possessed.
Yes.
Like that's
Yeah, that's something that I think they all fit, even these new archetypes, they all fit in well with Flabbergasted main game as well. They just add more silliness to it.
Candace, please make this happen.
Oh yeah, I mean, it'd be hilarious to have a sleuth who's always trying to find a case in everything. You know, no matter what, or mysteries just keep coming towards her. She's just the magnet for these things. You can fit them in to every
Sherlock
campaign.
Holmes if you take away his cocaine.
I mean, you don't have to take it away. You could still play.
Sherlock Holmes, without any cases, he'll still find one. But he'll still find.
And tell us a little bit about the sleuth as well. I know I'm putting you on the spot, which you could take time and open up files if you need. Like, tell us.
I can do that on the side. Sure, you go. I'll open them on the side.
Oh, with the sleuth. Well, they're an archetype that has a lot more prompts and scene cues that allow you to like work with the GM to theorize and come up with like connect the dots of clues and scenarios. Chelsea's the one who wrote most of these scene cues when we were developing, so
I know, which is embarrassing why they've all I'm blanking on everything. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the cat now.
I am now a pillow.
But there's also like the sleuth, like we're keeping it vague with the term like sleuth, because you could either be like a professional detective, right? Or you could just be an old lady who is a nosy neighbor, yes, and just has all the tea on everyone. And the scene cues you can choose them to reflect that type of character as well. So where do you get your information from? Like, can you pull out your badge and control the situation by, pushing the law on someone, or do you just know who to go and ask for gossip? Nice. I'm really distracted with Gilmore.
I'm so sorry.
So
he has decided to make his presence known. I had to go into the office today, so it was very rude. I left him all alone, and
all alone with Jared.
Yes.
Okay. So one thing I'm noticing with the archetypes, there's a lot of room for synergy, like between like the bohemian and the occultist, or like the well-to-do with the explorer. Like, did you have that in mind as you were expanding these groups of like the there's a word that I cannot come up with, but like, you know, the synergy between the current protagonists and the new ones that are being released.
Well, I'll be honest. I think when we first wrote the original 4 archetypes, they were a little bit more broad and encompassing. So some of the original archetypes will have like some similarities with the new ones, because they were, for example, the well-to-do is so broad, and a lot of the scene cues cover a wide range of like professions that they could fall under. So some could still touch upon the law, or being an explorer, or being a researcher, and a lot of those can fit into like, oh, I'm going to give my person a bit of an interest in occult, or whatever, adventuring. Not sure how to answer the question.
No, they were.
I'm losing my train of thought.
No, I'll continue. I'll find it. When we first made Flabbergasted, yeah, they were quite broad archetypes, like Fleur said, because we tried to capture any kind of character he wants to make. So in reality, with the existing game, you could have had a reporter as a well-to-do, because a reporter is a profession. But because it was so broad, the scene cues for a well-to-do are not specific to any one career or profession. Whereas, for example, with the sleuth, because it's such a, it's a fun profession to be either a reporter or whatever. If you're an old lady in an old person's home, just snooping around, we have specific scene cues that are more geared towards that. So they easily fit with a well-to-do as well. Everyone fits together in the same game, but they're more specific. Like, I have the scene cues open. For example, let's see, for the sleuth, she has, I don't know, I gendered her. They have a scene cue like, fill in the gaps. You see connections where others do not. That's something that a amateur sleuth would do. Or the usual suspects. You have a network of shady characters from past cases. They're willing to help you out when you need it. Then there's some very specific ones. Currently, there's one called Dead Men Don't Talk, where you investigate a corpse. No matter how old this thing is, you learn something from it. Again, it could fit into not a mystery, maybe. I don't know when it would come up, but you never know.
There's definitely something fun with the idea of like this wealthy 2D person who has like hired this pack of like explorers and sleuths to like, oh, we're going on an adventure. We're going to go find this ancient legend thing. Like, that seems like a very fun, like, everyone is highly capable except for the person who has like funded the project.
Yes.
That sounds like
I've met the British.
But actually, you were mentioning like the original Flabbergasted, like it did have accommodations for we encourage people to play, for example, like an adventuring club or a detective club as well. Mystified really is just like expanding on that to give them a lot more meat to it.
Yeah, something that people have asked for was more pre-written campaigns, like full-length campaigns. So in this one, with our 3 locations, which cover our 3 flavors of mystery, we're gonna have a full campaign in each one. And hopefully, if we do well with stretch goals, we can even do more. Should be great.
Well, so that you're already funded. That seems like it could happen.
Maybe. Yeah.
And
I just refreshed to see how we're doing.
A lot of people in our chat and who watch our content want to run games themselves, and Kay and I have built a lot of original stuff. Like, I'd say most of what we've run on this channel is all original. Do not shy away from not just new systems, but also new pre-made adventures. Like there's a reason that so many people have fond memories of Curse of Strahd. Like one, it's often more tightly a better experience than a custom thing that you come up with on your own because they've been tested. Like look in the credits of Flabbergasted. Look at like all the videos on it. Like there are people who've run this system and really like gotten down to the nuts and bolts, rather than I don't know waking up an hour before the game starts and trying to figure out where it goes. Not that I've ever done that before. But also, as a GM, as someone running games, it saves you so much work. Like laying the groundwork and coming up with like all of the cues and all of the hints that point in a direction and building out all these NPCs. Like everybody knows that I'm terrible at coming up with like names for people. And so just having a like pre-generated NPCs that have names and personalities saves me tens of hours of work. Now, most of those hours are just coming up with the names. The rest was pretty easy. But, but like, remember as a GM, you're supposed to be having fun too. And if it's too much work, you're not going to be having fun. You're going to be resentful. So pick up something that is, pick up like a fully fleshed out campaign that's done already and run that and have a great time with it. And while, like I said, while most of what we've done is stuff that we've made originally, we've also run modules. Like we did the one with the tower. Ponies. Ponies was great. Everybody loves ponies. Candace ran Flabbergasted here. Like there's that stuff is great. And it's made by brilliant people and it's play tested and it saves you a lot of work. So like go well, for one, go buy the Backerkit. You have to go buy it before you run out, like before somebody else gets your copy.
Exactly.
But also it'll save you a lot of work and it makes it much more like, hey, are you guys free this Saturday night? I'm gonna run a thing, rather than I've been building this campaign for 6 months. If you miss a session, I will find you and I will set your house on fire. Like
and especially if you're new to the system, right? If you don't know the system very well, run a module. Now, also like research, because poor Richard was running a Pathfinder 2e module that was one of the earliest Pathfinder 2es they put out, and it was like brutal. It was his players were like, we're not having fun. And so he had to like go and research, right? So like double check, but yeah, like it can make it a lot easier.
And I think that's what we wanted to accomplish as well with Mystified this time around, because we did have some pre-made stuff with Flabbergasted. We had like an open sandbox with lots of NPCs, like you had, all with brilliant names that we pre-selected. But with Mystified, we definitely want to go even further and have a lot more finished campaigns that someone could just pick up and plop into their game and start running straight away. I mean, because there's GMs for both types, right? There are the ones who really like planning everything well in advance. As a GM, I'm a bit of both. I like to, sometimes I will use modules, but I'll add my own stuff to it. And I like to come up with things on the fly. My typical technique is I start running like, and an hour in, I'm like, okay, guys, bathroom break. And that's when I go to the bathroom to just think and plan what the next thing is gonna be. So many bathroom breaks as a GM.
Yes. Candace says, I hope y'all submit to the Annies again and keep that good exposure going. You could be considered for best supplement and best adventure.
Ooh. No, we definitely want to. And
oh yeah, we'll submit.
Yeah. I am also the person, if I run a module, I have to read the entire module through like a time or two, which is sometimes a problem with like, now I haven't run Curse of Strahd, but like with Curse of Strahd, that is some intense reading.
And it's got some there's a lot of lore and there's a lot of stuff. But also I'd like to point out for people who are watching, Kay and I have said this before. we've both had occasions, and actually it happened with Body and Soul, I think 2 weeks, where you get to a point and you're like, I'm out of material here, so we're done here, and either we're gonna take a break and I'm gonna figure some stuff out, or I'll see you next week. And you know, from these professionals, they run into the same issue that we have. So like, it's okay to be like, well, I planned for this fight to take 3 hours, but I forgot that I gave you a scroll of fireball, you know, 20 sessions ago, and they're all trees, and now the fight's done. So I'll see you guys next week. Like that happens.
You just do a shopping montage after that. That's how.
Yeah.
That's usually my filler for anything I roleplay. I'm like, okay, I have to kill some time until our next fight. Why don't we go and buy some new gear? And then they easily spend an hour just faffing about.
Oh man.
I'll just have an NPC like hint at someone's secret, and then just sit back and watch the party fight. Like, oh, inner party drama, go. And then I'm over here like, okay, so what's next? Cassivan says modules can be fun. My most recent games have been pretty loose outline with a bunch of improv. Currently running Fabula Online, which is surprisingly supportive of the improv approach. Previously ran Itris by, and it got weird fast. Looking forward to running Flabbergasted if I could sell it to my group. Yes, it is a very improv friendly. It had better be improv friendly, because I certainly threw poor Candace for a couple loops. I've had system core creators come in and watch the biggest rush of both adrenaline and nerves. Oh my goodness, yes. Like, David and I have talked on here before. I wrote Godplane because I wanted to run a game, but I knew that if I set it in the Forgotten Realms, I would get something wrong, and then the internet would call me a fake nerd, and I just wouldn't be able to continue to exist. So I had to write my own original everything so that I couldn't be wrong, because it's my setting.
I mean, yeah, sometimes when it's with a very dense fantasy system, like apart from just the GM needing to learn all of it, and how do you communicate that to your players? Because not every player wants to do a lot of homework before they start playing.
Exactly.
At least I found as the older we got, the less you want to do preparatory work for it, you know. It was one thing when we were like 20 and, you know, all we had to, our weekends were completely free, and we could spend lots of time discussing things and talking about lore. And now it's like, can we just do a one shot? Like,
we used to have tabletop role playing sleepovers and just play for like 10 hours and then 10 hours the next day. And like, oh,
I remember having fun. It was 2004. No, that leads me to a question: is how did you find time to play while you were working on first Flabbergasted and then Mystified? Like, how did you find time for other things? Like play TTRPG?
For other things. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, during Flabbergasted, there was a period where I felt like we weren't playing other games outside of Flabbergasted. And I'm like, this is our job now. We have to play more games. So we actually recently started, well, we call it a one-shot club with our friends. Just because we need to play more games. I mean, one, because we enjoy role-playing games, but also it helps us to try new systems and new games. But we are, you know, at a point where it's hard to play full campaigns. So one-shots are great. And each time we have a session with friends, someone else is GMing, so you have time in between to prep something else.
We call it a one-shot club, but so far every one-shot has at least taken 2 sessions.
That's one-shot modules are generally lies.
Yes. But yeah, it's definitely we are playing less than we did maybe 5 years ago. But part of it is just getting older, and everyone having their own house and full-time jobs, and
we tend to play test in the evenings then with friends, you know, and we do meet up. So we've played lots of Flabbergasted in the last few years, more than anything else.
Which, again,
but yeah, we're trying
to
play
understandable. Yeah, Improv and RPG says, I love watching actual plays to learn the ins and outs of a system, and that is 100% how I learned 5e. I was like, I'm just gonna watch these people play. And David was there, my first 5e GM, didn't understand. I was playing a rogue, didn't understand sneak attack, and was like, no, you only get sneak attack if like flanking. And I'm like, no, I get sneak attack if blah, da, 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 da. Sorry, it's gonna be really distracting again. And like, I finally came at him so hard that he went and looked it up and was like, oh no, you should have been doing sneak attack this whole time. And I'm like, yes. Actual plays are incredible for learning that sort of thing. And
having written several one-shots, the number one question I always ask Kay is like, oh my god, is there enough here? And then Kay hits me with the squirt bottle and is like, you need to stop. Just shut up. Because every time I'm like, oh my god, do we have enough stuff? And then we get to the end of the episode and I look at all of the stuff we've cut out that can be used like again, that we could build an entire new one-shot with. And like Zycram says, it's not a one-shot if you never take a break.
Yeah.
If instead of 3 hours you do 8 hours, it's still a one-shot.
One-shot.
Our sleepovers were one-shots essentially. Just 20-hour one-shots. I find that with one-shots, I barely plan anything. I just have like 4 lines, 4 points, especially with Flabbergasted mostly, because those are the one-shots I've done recently.
Yeah.
I'll just have I'll have a story hook, a few points, and then let them do whatever they want. Because it's the kind of system that really like promotes improv.
Yeah.
And if players ever get stuck, which sometimes happens, especially if you're doing a one-shot with people you don't know, they just read the scene cue and do something really silly with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, under-planning is better with one-shots. You don't want to over-plan and get disappointed when they go left instead of right.
Yeah, like you have to be prepared to get players back on the track in a one-shot.
Yeah, it's always
like you
tough.
got it. The goal is to get them through the adventure and to the satisfying ending. And it doesn't matter if they take the planned path there and in fact expect that they will not take the planned path there, because no plan survives a player. Speaking of no plan surviving, this cat, y'all, is ridiculous tonight.
Oh no, he's not asleep, okay, but he is getting comfortable.
I wish my cats would sit on my shoulder.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
My arm is so tired.
I mean, I say I'm jealous. My dog can't sit on my shoulder. I can't have a 30-kilo dog on my shoulder.
He looks
You wouldn't
sweet,
see
but
me.
his tail is going. I'm gonna be in so much trouble when we finish this call. And yeah, he gonna fight me. You wanna come down, please? You're really heavy.
Or is he just demanding cuddles?
So cute.
He doesn't. He is trying to annoy me enough that I will do the cat thing and slap him, and so then he has an excuse to fight. But I'm not a cat, so I'm not gonna like get mad at that. Right? Like it's not working for him. All right. We didn't. I think the only one we haven't really dug into, and I'm sorry to keep pulling back, but I want to hear about. We didn't do the Explorer.
Ah, yes. The Indiana Jones style.
Yes. Fun story. I grew up. I was in the era where all the girls really liked.
Oh yeah.
Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, Han Solo. And I was never like, and I was like, I wonder why that is. And then I grew up and realized my dad looks exactly like Harrison Ford.
Your dad looks like Harrison Ford.
My dad looked, in his youth,
Okay.
looks exactly like Harrison Ford. It was like,
I mean, if you weren't ace already, nothing would make you ace faster.
right? Yeah.
Everyone is crushing on your dad.
I was just like, I don't get it. Like, and then I was like, oh, I don't have daddy issues. That's why I don't get it.
Yeah, it would be way more concerning if you were like that Harrison Ford fella. Yeah.
Well, my dad looks nothing like Indiana Jones, and I can say that Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones is so beautiful. He's such a stunning man.
He's perfect as in Indiana Jones.
I prefer him as Indy to Han Solo. I think he's better style and has better hair as Indy.
Yeah, so the Explorer. Yeah, so Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones. Yeah, so as an explorer, you obviously think of something like Indiana Jones. You're going to be craving excitement and going, for some treasures or artifacts or things like that, exploring ancient sites, getting your hands dirty at a dig site, things like that. And these are the kind of mysteries you're going to have. Think of things like Indiana Jones, or I can't think.
Uncharted.
Uncharted.
Tomb
Those
Raider.
kind of mysteries.
Tomb Raider, yes.
So when you have an explorer, you pick.
So basically,
you
like
can
expanding our definition of mysteries a bit. Like, not every mystery is just about like solving a murder. It could be like, there's a something you need to retrieve from a far off flung location, and there's baddies on your trail, and that's still
like there's a
that has-
mystery in an ancient site, and then the challenges and the leads that you have might be more obstacles to get there, or things like that, or you have to talk to certain people to get certain information, things like that. And yeah, when you have an explorer, you pick an employer. Every explorer has an employer, like, I don't know, some sort of museum of archaeology might be your employer, or an institute, things like that. And
You
you
mean
pick
the British
an
Museum has told you to go steal something? Got it.
exactly.
or maybe you now have to steal something back from the British Museum.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
That's a good campaign over there.
And you pick an occupation for your employer. So you could be, I don't know, paleontologist, an archaeologist, like your dad, Harrison Ford. Or was he an archaeologist? He has an archaeologist and a professor, I think.
So
right?
yes.
Yeah, professor of archaeology.
You could be two things.
Yeah.
You could be two things. And yeah, let's see some scene cues. So, for example, we have speaking of, because we have a cat in the stream, there's the scene cue Animal Whisper, which is that while out in the wild, you learned how to attune and communicate with all manners of creatures. Animals are less likely to be aggressive with you and trust you implicitly. Then there's the classic, I read that in a book, which is that you know lots of obscure facts and you can recall them and recall historical details.
One of my favorite things about coming up
Sorry.
with scene cues is all of the puns that we like, or reference the titles. Yeah, so
like this scene cue, it belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
It's the title. And you can commandeer any item you come across by convincing the owner of its archaeological importance. No matter what it is, you must take it for further study.
I'm actually playing in a trophy dark game, or was. We'll see if we're able to. And I'm like, yeah, get some of those vibes for sure. Into that.
Yes. There's a scene cue that's about like being able to speak a lot of different languages, or like just enough to get by in other places. You're very well traveled. There is one that's very directly inspired by Indiana Jones called the Wait and Switch, where you can essentially, like, it's like a pickpocketing ability, but with that Indiana Jones flavor to it.
Yeah, Rex says they need to run the "you put that cursed object back, or I swear ... campaign.
I mean, I think like the pairings between the new archetypes can be really, really funny as well, though. Like the occultists like going over some artifact and just
having them all do an explorer type adventure, like having a sleuth as well trying to solve the mystery of
the
some
sleuth
mummy
and the explorer arguing, like both coming to different conclusions and just arguing over it.
And then the occult just gets possessed and
randomly loses a limb sometimes.
The cult's like, let me see it possessed. Yes.
Exactly. A lot of good synergy there.
Yeah, that and again, then having the well-to-do who funded this entire expedition just standing back and being like, why is everyone I hired all being strange and fighting? Aren't you all experts in your field?
And having a butler in the group who's confused if this is part of their job description to be in an ancient site looking for an artifact.
Yeah, do you get paid enough to be here?
Yeah.
This counts
We
as
have all of
overtime.
them.
Dusty.
Sounds hilarious.
Mhm.
A bohemian writing a song about their adventure.
Yeah. And apart from the archetypes, I am really excited about, like, we have 3 sandbox locations that we're bringing into the game as well. And I am very so, like, one of the locations, it's called Ravenspire, right? It's Cravenspire.
Cravenspire.
Yes. Which is the one that is the occult one, and has definitely that Arkham vibe to it. And I'm really excited to see if people can mesh the comedy with that Cthulhu kind of horror stuff as well. Because I think there is room for like comedic, like horror, mystery, and that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna run a Scooby-Doo game.
That's perfect.
That would fit.
When we ran Godplane, because Godplane is a 5e horror campaign, and we had to tell people, we're like, hey, so don't use humor to break the scene at the start of the scene. And we had to, after the first couple, we realized we had to word it correctly, because we were like, hey, this isn't the That's What She Said campaign, right? Don't just come in and start breaking the humor. And then people were like, oh, we can't be funny. And it's like, no. We want you to be funny after the thing has happened, right? If a mind flayer comes in, don't go Zoidberg, right? Because that's going to kill the moment of that. But after you've survived the horror thing, then say something funny, and it's even funnier, because now the tension needs to be broken. So there's a lot of space for humor. In fact, one of the runnings of Godplane, they stepped into it's a dream realm, and they stepped into the body of Dritz Duern and a couple of the companions, and came out of that talking about boy love fan fiction. And so in the middle of a horror campaign, they're pulling out handwritten scrolls of the fan fiction, and I'm just like, I love this. This is why I play TTRPGs, actually.
I mean, there are definitely those players who love the drama and they really want to have serious campaigns and go into their method acting or whatever. But at least in my experience, I find most people, they want to go with the lighthearted approach to it as well.
Well, even in real life, we laugh about things when they're terrible, right? No one, that's what we had to go back when we were talking about horror. It's like, we don't want you to be serious all the time.
Yeah. Because
no one can maintain that level of emotion for 3 hours, for 4 hours, for however long this is. You need the ups and downs. And again, okay, I'm a big fan of the Labyrinth.
Yes.
Big fan.
I desperately want to run a Labyrinth campaign, but you have to find the right players, because the Labyrinth runs like a horror movie. You have to have the horror movie build up, and then the thing isn't that bad. It's like a funny thing where it still might be suspenseful. There was the funny battle, and even though it was a tense battle, it was still funny. But it's like, if you're doing slapstick from the very start, it doesn't feel like Labyrinth. I think
it's such a specific mode as well with Labyrinth. It's like, because it's like ridiculous situations, but gotta take them seriously as well.
And I feel like that's what a lot of Mystified, especially that setting, is going to be, of oh no, something really bad's going to happen. Oh no, it's not that bad. Okay, ha ha ha. And now I'm possessed.
Hopefully there's a good balance between silly and suspense. It's the idea.
I'm glad you brought up locations, because I am very curious about the locations. And you talked about Cravenspire, but what about Pembroke and Porto Verde?
So Pembroke is supposed to be that that very idyllic kind of town where everyone knows each other, not much of note happens, except for that strange string of murders that's going on and no one can explain. And that's the setting where we want people to really explore that kind of cozy mystery genre, which I'm quite a big fan of. I'm really getting into this cozy mystery kind of stuff. Especially, I'm a really big fan of the book series Thursday Murder Club series. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. It's
Yeah, I
about
love
a group of like basically like octogenarians who are in an old people's home and they are solving crimes and murders
Awesome.
around their. It's
One thing
It's a really
that
funny series.
that
Mhm.
Kay got me into what's it called, the TV shows where they talk about the true crime. Kay got me into true crime there's a whole story there. But one thing true crime has taught me is everybody's going, oh man, things were so safe in the 50s and 60s and 70s and no one had their doors locked and everything was bodies were dropping everywhere, in small towns, in big cities. People were up to no good. And so like the idea of like an idyllic small town where nothing happens except all the people who get murdered is 100% historically accurate.
Yes, and I think especially like that setting has the biggest potential for that mix of like of ironic comedy, kind of like oh our neighbor has just dropped dead, but doesn't their garden look amazing though?
I know I don't sound it, but I grew up in small town Texas, and we drove through a lot of small town, and there were towns where you're like, don't stop there even for gas.
Yes.
It looks small, it looks quaint and cute, and if you stop, you will learn it's not. So please don't.
There are true crime documentaries about places near where Kay grew up.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
No, I wanna look them up.
Oh,
I love a good true crime. Pembroke is also inspired a lot by Hot Fuzz, the movie.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly like the vibe we're going for. You know, that sweet town, but something really sinister is happening, and a lot of silliness, but also some violence and. But yeah, I've actually been having a lot of fun writing Pembroke because like every location is a kind of a sinister pun behind it. Like there's the flower shop called Pushing Daisies. There's there's the pub.
Also, that's the name of the good show. If anyone
really
hasn't seen it.
The Hack Me Down pub was one of the. So yeah, that's Pembroke, and then the other location that we have is Puerto Verde, which partially inspired a little bit by our own country and culture. We're from a Mediterranean island, and we wanted to kind of reflect that with this kind of like seemingly idyllic or paradise kind of island, but it's only like the port towns that are populated, and then deep inside it there's a lot of mysteries going on there, and that's we want to have like these very classic jungle adventures and discoveries going on there.
Well, we are nearing the end of our time together. We're not quite there yet. Chat, if you have any final questions, other than showing, like, we appreciate the love for Hot Fuzz and Pushing Daisies. We really do. But if you have any questions for our incredible guests, congratulations again on funding. You can still get your copies through Backerkits. You can still get your pet portraits through Backerkit.
You can still help get the stretch goal.
Yes.
We are very close to our first stretch goal, where we get to upgrade the book with gold ribbon and gold foil on the front.
Which we did for Flabbergasted, and there looks very nice.
And yeah, Chief Inspector, you get your pet's likeness included as a custom illustration. It is a good value.
Your pets will be immortalized.
Oh, Rex, thank you so much. Yeah, we had a lot of fun playing Flabbergasted, and I famously am like hot and cold on rules light. It took me a long time to figure out. I don't dislike rules light. I'm just not a big fan of Powered by the Apocalypse specifically. Once I figured that out, I'm like, okay, there's other rules lights that I can try out. And Flabbergasted hit my buttons real happy.
It's interesting that you mentioned PBTA, because like they're definitely like, we were inspired by PBTA to come up with Flabbergasted, but I've also had my frustrations with that system, where I feel like their abilities felt more limiting than they did
Yeah.
being able for you to expand upon. Like I had recently tried the Avatar one, the Avatar Legends, and often their abilities were kind of in conflict with what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because it's like they dictate how you should react to an action.
Exactly.
That's it.
And I've been told the GMs that I played it with are playing it wrong, and it's not supposed to be in role play, but like the idea that you can only ask certain questions out of your playbook. And I'm like, but none of these are questions that I want to ask.
Yeah. I don't like those kind of moves. Like, don't tell me what to do.
Because like there's I like the structure of PBTA, but not necessarily the specifics, and that's where I feel like with scene cues they're like the opposite. They don't tell you how to feel. They just give you like so many. You can go and improvise as much as you want with you know.
They're just
we
ideas,
give you more to expand on rather than limit like what you can do.
Yeah, because I am one of those people who I've already got like a billion characters up here, and I am delighted to take my character and adapt it to whatever system we're playing in. That's not a problem. I get cranky then when you tell me like this is how you play your character. I'm like, no, it's my character. You don't get to tell me how I play my character. That's my job. I'm in the system so I can play my character.
It's why I've never, as much as I like D&D, I've never played with alignment systems. I don't want it to dictate.
Again, we are chaotic wholesome, which is a play on alignment. I don't know anyone in the past like 5 years who hasn't gone like alignment is a suggestion or a guide.
Exactly.
Don't spend too much on that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about your alignment unless you're a paladin and I feel like a dick. Like if I want to be like, oh man, I'm just gonna bully the shit out of you for the next like 12 sessions as your god, then listen, your alignment's gonna be very important. Otherwise, I don't really care.
Yeah, and I've always been a big believer that your actions dictate your alignment. You don't tell me your alignment. Your actions tell me your alignment. So, you can say that you're chaotic good all you want. You just lit the orphanage on fire. And as the GM, I can tell you that wasn't an orphanage full of evil children.
Yes. And you also want to give space for your characters to change as well, or to realize I had an idea for my character and I don't like it. Yeah. I'm going to change as I go along now as well.
My Starfinder character. Now, I also always have kind of approached, like, Dave and I have had this talk. I don't know if we had it on the show, but like, I've always looked at if you look at good and evil, I look at it less as good and evil and more as altruistic and selfish.
Self-serving, yeah. Self-serving or...
And like, that's kind of how my Starfinder character is chaotic neutral, but like at the start of the campaign, we're very much closer to the selfish end. And while they're still in chaotic neutral, they've like moved across that graph. And it's nice to feel that change. Like alignment is useful in that way. But also it would have sucked had I sat there and gone, well, this character is intended to be more on the evil side of chaotic neutral. So I'm going to do the dickbag thing. When actually it's more interesting for them to put themselves at risk and do the good thing that might cost them their reputation.
And to the men who play characters and just really ruin everyone, because, and I say men because I've never seen a woman do this. I've never seen like a non-binary, but to the men who do this, where they're like, well, it's what my character would do, and you ruin everyone's time. Stop it. Just stop it. Like go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and like spit at your image. Just stop it.
Yeah. It's almost like a power play. They're like, because my character is this kind of thing, I can do it whenever I want. And honestly, I had, because we were running some like...
I know what you're thinking.
We're running Flabbergasted for some local game nights, and I had a player who... Oh my God, nightmare player, and I'm too passive to do anything about it. Like, I hate confrontation, but I wish I at that moment went to talk to someone to get him kicked out, because he played a character who was an alcoholic, right? And you can play an alcoholic character in a fun way, right? Just someone who's a little bit silly. But he was like, honest, I don't want to talk, like, urinating on other characters because he's a drunk, and I'm like, this is not how. This is not fun for anyone.
Not flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I've known many alcoholics. None of them have peed on anyone.
No.
Not one. Some of my
Like,
favorite people are alcoholics. They know how to
Rough.
behave themselves.
really just
Yeah. Or
Ruining it
we
for people
play a
and-
lot of 5e or Pathfinder
Yeah.
or systems that have like other races, and it's like the players who are like, well, I'm not racist, but my character hates elves, so they're going to say this thing, and it's like, no, we don't need that. That's not.
Yeah,
that
it's like
isn't
Mhm.
fun or good.
It's
for
it's not.
anyone.
Certain characters just
Hey, Ty.
aren't fun. Period. For anyone.
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Um,
always they always go like way above. It's like I'm not racist, but I hate elves, and then it's like, listen, you pointy-eared, leaf-eaten, vine-weaving, and you're just like, buddy, guy, fellow.
Yeah.
Maybe no, maybe not even a little bit.
No, if people aren't just having fun, then just stop what you're doing. Like,
Right.
Some
Yeah,
people don't know
read
how to roll. Some people don't know how though when they
Yeah.
role play.
And look, there is a difference between like a neurospiciness where reading a room is difficult and like looking
yeah.
around the table and everyone's like, we are actively trying to leave this. And the guy's like, well, but you look at my character, he doesn't look like he's gonna leave.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks. So, on that note,
Yeah.
let's wrap up on a
Sure.
happier thing. You are funded. You are almost to your first stretch goal.
Yes.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congrats again. Thank you for
Mhm.
spending the time to come on here and chat with us. I'm so excited that we got to be just a tiny little part of this. Thank you for creating such a fun and whimsical system that I certainly had fun getting lost in. Again, I love the 20s aesthetic, like, because being kind of on that non-binary scale, like the flapper girls were literally like, no, we're gonna dress like boy, and like while it's still very girly for us, it was such a weird, edgy, cool thing that was happening of like, no, we don't
Yes,
have to have
yes.
curves, we can look like boys and we can wear short skirts and dance like that. And it was mind-boggling. And most everything I find is Cthulhu, and it's not that I dislike Cthulhu, but it seems like every AP of Cthulhu, they have to spend the first hour just talking about how terrible their characters are,
Yeah.
or like proving how terrible their characters are. I'm like, can we just skip this part? I don't.
Like, we're all familiar with H.P. Lovecraft. Like, there is a thick grime of awful on top of this. You don't need to double down.
Exactly.
There's a quote I like a lot, which when it comes to like liking these things like 1920s or any kind of period, just like vintage aesthetic, but not vintage ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So give us I mean, we've been dropping links, but we are going to continue. Give us, where can we find you? What can we expect? We can expect Mystified to come out.
Yes.
But you know, what other plans? What can we find? You're doing AP, like where can we find y'all, and how can we support beyond Backerkit? Which obviously support a Backerkit.
Well, first I just want to say thank you again for like having us on this show. It's been really, really nice to chat. It actually woke me up a bit because for us it's like half midnight.
It's so late, y'all.
But honestly, I feel okay. I'm feeling hyper now.
Yeah, me too. Usually I'm in bed by now, so this is surprising.
So yeah, our campaign is basically just started today, and it's going to be running for another 30 days. We have quite a few events planned over the next few weeks. We've got at least 2 actual plays, more interviews coming up, and you'll know about these either on our socials, like either on Instagram or Twitter, mostly on Instagram, as where we're more active, but also on our Backerkit page where we're posting updates, and things will be streamed there when they go live. Please feel free to check out our website. We've got some items there on store. And do we have anything else? I mean,
yeah, our website, I mean, I know it's in the chat, but wonders-tome.com, and you'll find us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, Facebook.
oh yeah.
And you'll find us as Wonders, either wonders.tome or wonders-tome. We also have a Discord if you'd like to join. You find it on our website, but it's a really lovely community there. What else? that's it. And we have our Backerkit live for 30 days. And like Fleur said, we have some events, including hopefully some streams that we'll be doing, talking about Flabbergasted, showing people
We
how
are
to play
planning.
Mystified.
We will be doing an Easter egg run through of all of the things we snuck into Flabbergasted, all of the references that we have, and we should be doing that on a live stream sometime soon. Actually, I will do one small self plug, which is that
Please.
on Backerkit in 2 days there's going to be Pintopia, and I am also taking part in Pintopia. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to actually promote it because all my energy went onto this, but
That's fair.
if you want to check it out.
Yeah, this is just Fleur's Backerkit, and she made some beautiful role-playing inspired pins.
I have an enamel pin problem, so we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, Pintopia! There's going to be like 125 creators in Pintopia going on right now. It's.
I hope that's
Also,
right.
because you didn't mention what it is, Fleur. You want to say the name of your Backerkit, your personal one?
Oh yes, you'll find it under my name, Fleur Shortino. Everything's linked on our website of Wanderer's Tome because I'm sure most people don't know how to spell Shortino. Or you can find my pin project under Midnight Armata on Backerkit.
Amazing.
And I think that's it from me, Angela. I would just again, and thank you to everyone who's supporting us so far. I'm seeing us creeping up towards our first stretch goal.
Yay!
Amazing.
Thanks for everyone who watched, and thank you guys for inviting us. It was really nice to chat.
Thank you
and
so
meet
much
you
for
guys.
staying up late and telling us all about this incredibly fun, beautiful world that you've created. I'm Kay. I've been one of your hosts. Find me here Thursday and Friday playing Baldur's Gate with David, who I think is over here on the overlay. I don't remember. But David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is we doing here, and how many hours have you logged since the Stardew Valley update dropped?
Look. You really had to. But for my first time, despite spending hundreds and hundreds of hours in Stardew, I did manage to complete the community center in year 1. So there's that. Jot that down. Too many hours, Kay. There are things I should be doing.
Flex.
You're just Anyway, hi. I'm David. Check out the Stardew update. It's awesome. But this is Stardew shitposting central, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity. And also, on occasion, we get to feature really awesome guests with really awesome projects that I personally and many people in chat are really looking forward to.
Yes, and thank you, chat. You've had great questions. You've had great feedback. You've made us laugh. Welcome to all the new people. Thank you, Cassifon, for coming by. And we are going to raid over, I think, to Vanna, who is doing some just chatting. She's great. Thank you all again. I hope you've had a great evening. Thank you to our incredible guests. Congratulations again. 5 hours and funded is just the best. So happy for you. Cannot wait to see Mystified when it comes out. Remember, y'all, be kind to yourself and be excellent to others, and we will see you all next time.